Hey, what's up guys? Jack and Matt here with the Toasty Bros, and today we're revisiting an old friend, the Athlon 3000G. Is it still relevant in 2022?
The Athlon 3000G goes for about $100 right now, new prime shipped from Amazon, but is it actually worth it at that price point? Well, we're about to find out, but first, a word from today's sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by GVG Mall, the online marketplace to gain access to some really awesome discounted game keys, and more specifically, Windows 10 licenses.
With Windows 10, it is so easy just to go onto the website using the link in the description down below, and then go to the Windows 10, click buy it now, add code TB20, then go to the checkout, put in your payment info, and then boom, you will get within a few seconds or a few minutes an activation code that you will go into Windows 10, put in the activation code, and it is fully legit. It will work out of the box, and you will have a fully activated Windows 10 license.
We use GVG Mall for all the PCs we build here at the Toasty Bros, and so should you. So definitely check the link in the description down below and use code TB20 to save money on checkout.
So the Athlon 3000G was released a few years back. It's basically a dumbed down 3200G that's Athlon instead of Ryzen. It's 2-core 4-thread. It does have integrated graphics that just aren't quite nearly as good as the 3200G, but the main selling point of this processor when it came out was it was $50 or less, and you can actually still get it sometimes at something like a Micro Center or Best Buy near you. But for the most part, if you're gonna be buying one of these online, you're looking around $100, and honestly, that's about the price of something like an i3-10100 or an i3-10105 that has 4 cores and 8 threads and much better graphics. So is it still worth it?
So what we're gonna go ahead and do is build a PC around this 3000G and see if it's worth picking up. So let's talk about each individual part and dive into the PC build.
So for the CPU/APU, we have the Athlon 3000G, which is a 2-core 4-thread, and we often compare this processor to something like the Intel i3-10100 or the 3200G. The 3200G has Vega 8 graphics and it's a true quad core, and the Vega 8 graphics are actually better than the i3-10100, and they're even better than this right here, and the i3-10100 actually has better graphics than this as well. Not by a lot, but a little bit, but you're also getting 4 cores and 8 threads versus 2 cores and 4 threads. So that's really gonna be the big thing about this build is it really worth paying $100 for this when you can get something like the i3-10100 with integrated graphics for around the same price? Well, maybe.
Pretty obvious.
We'll find out, but you never know. And you're probably wondering, what is this Ryzen 5 box doing up here? Well, there's not a processor in here. We're just going to be using the stock Wraith cooler over this Athlon cooler, which is really tiny. We'll show it to you guys, it's really cute, but we just want to give this thing the best fighting chance and have a custom cooler, because in this thing standard, it's about 25 to 35 watts. So this cooler is really going to give it a fighting chance. So for the motherboard, we have the ASUS Prime B450M-A, which is 5000 and 3000 ready. So out of the box, this thing is going to support this processor right here. We have 4 RAM slots, and it has a pretty good amount of upgradability. That's kind of the whole point behind this build is like, I mean, hey, you probably don't want to stick with this forever, and you want to be able to go to like a Ryzen 7. Well, this will definitely support it, and it's pretty cheap. Now, if you want to save some money, you might be able to find an A320 for this, because an A320 would support this and it'll be a lot cheaper on paper, but at the same time, you really can't find A320s that much anymore. But if you do go on like eBay or something, you probably find it for like $30. So if you really want to save some money. And now for RAM, we have this Teamforce TC Create, which is 16 gigs at 3200 megahertz, and it is dual channel. So we have 2 sticks at 8 gigs apiece. And obviously we could have gone 8 gigs dual channel to save a little bit of money, but realistically it only would have saved about $10 to $15. And having the 16 gigs is very much worth it, especially if you ever want to add a graphics card to this.
Hey guys, Future Matt here. At this moment, we realize that the 3000G does not support NVMe drives. And since we didn't have any standard SATA M.2s, we had to pick up one of these bad boys from PC Bros. This is a TEAMGROUP 512 gig SSD, the AX2. So yeah, if you're gonna build a 3000G PC, do keep in mind you cannot use an NVMe drive. A little less storage was what we had on hand. So yeah, back to the rest of those parts. Now for the power supply, we have the good old ARESGAME 500 watt power supply. We love ARESGAME power supplies for budget builds because, well, they're very cheap, very affordable, and they do the job for these really low power builds. So yeah, definitely consider using this for a PC build like this. And for the case, we have the MOROVOL, whatever you want to call it, TW7 computer case with some RGB built in. Very budget case. You really don't need to get anything fancy. You can get a very bare bones case, but you know what? Here at the Toasty Bros, we'd like to add some RGB to even the most budget of systems, and it doesn't cost too much more money. One of the cheapest ones you can buy on Amazon. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and build this thing real quick. It's not gonna take very long because it is an APU build, and then dive into some testing. guys, now that we have this Athlon 3000G PC all booted up and ready to go, let's talk about some benchmarks real quick. Now we decided to test this PC in a couple of titles that make sense for the Athlon 3000G, those being Fortnite, Minecraft, Valorant, and we actually threw in an old classic TF2, which I'll talk about here in the benchmark run later on. First up, in Fortnite at 1080p on pro settings using 65% resolution scale, we managed to get 60 plus FPS. In all honesty, you probably are going to be playing games at 720p with the 3000G if you're going to have a very locked 60 FPS experience, and by doing that you probably would be able to play some higher end games at least 30 FPS, but today we wanted to test 1080p because that is a resolution most of you guys consider the bare minimum, and we wanted to see what we could get at that resolution. But as you can see in Fortnite and what you will see in other esports titles, running at pretty much half resolution scale in low settings will net you a 60 FPS average, but it's not a super smooth experience. There are stutters here and there, and I wouldn't imagine an in-game in Fortnite would work very well for you with a lot of things going on. You'd probably dip well below 60, so for a casual gamer wanting to get into Fortnite, the 3000G is still a pretty good option. Then before I move on, I do want to touch on the point of why we're making this video. The 3000G can be had on the used market sometimes for $50 or $60. Buying it new at $99, not really a good buy right now. The i3-10100 delivers 4 cores and 8 threads and some integrated graphics that technically are better than these Vega 3 graphics and gives you a, well, theoretically better upgrade path by just being able to add a GPU in the future. With the Athlon 3000G, you really can't add a GPU without having some sort of bottlenecking, considering it's only 2 cores and 4 threads. But the target audience I'm looking at right now for the 3000GE is people in other countries who may want a really cheap computer for office work and can also game on the side, because I've noticed the 3000G is a little bit better priced in other regions outside the United States. So if you were in a situation where the 3000G is about $50 or $60 versus something like the i3-10100, should you go with the Athlon 3000G? Well, it's starting to look like you can do that and have a good upgrade path on that Ryzen platform. Next up, in Minecraft on low settings at 1080p, we average 60 plus FPS. Minecraft, easy game to run. Really, you're not going to run at max settings because you're going to get a lot of stutters. The 2-core 4-threaded CPU cannot keep up, but if you lower enough settings, lower the chunk render distance a little bit, you'll get a 60 FPS experience and have no problems diving into Minecraft. When I think of the Athlon 3000G, I think of a PC that's really good for a kid who's getting into PC gaming for the first time, and you want to let them build their own PC and have something that they can upgrade on in the future. I think this is a really good processor for that, and Minecraft is a game that tailors to that audience, and it seems to work really well. Next up, in Valorant at 1080p on low settings, this is where I was surprised a little bit. We got 90 plus FPS. I knew Valorant was a pretty easy game to run, but I didn't know we could get close to 100 FPS in Valorant on an Athlon 3000G. So there's that. If you want to play Valorant, the 3000G is really all you need at 1080p to get a 60 plus FPS experience and be able to play competitively pretty comfortably. Now, the last game I decided to throw in was Team Fortress 2, because I just want to show that PC gaming is more than just the latest AAA titles. There's some legendary games out there like Team Fortress 2, albeit it probably hasn't aged very well, and I'm pretty much putting on my nostalgia glasses here because I absolutely love this game. You can play these older titles easily at 1080p max settings and get 100 plus FPS, because the hardware back then when these games came out were about the same as what this 3000G can push without a dedicated graphics card. So you got your TF2s, your Half-Lives, all the Source games. Those games you can definitely play, and yeah, the 3000G is still very capable. In terms of price performance, as we'll talk about here in the outro in a second, you are still probably going to lose to the i3-10100 if you're in the US, and it's the difference between the i3-10100 for less money and this one at $100. But if you can pick this bad boy up at around 50 or 60 bucks like it should, or paired with a motherboard on the used market, I think you can make a really awesome little gaming system and have a decent upgrade path in the future. So let me know down below what you think of the 3000G, and I'm gonna bring Jackson back in here to wrap this video up real quick.
Okay guys, so we just got done benchmarking the 3000G, and obviously it's still pretty decent for the price. I mean, at $320-ish for this whole entire system, you really can't complain too much, especially in these hard times where you really can't get a graphics card. But the one note we will say is the i3-10100 non-F variant is still out there. You can usually get them for like 120, and you can get like a B460M for around $80 to $100. to where it really just makes this obsolete. But if you can go to like a Micro Center or just find a good deal on a 3000G and get like something like an A320M motherboard, and you can be all in around 100 to 120 bucks for the motherboard and the processor, then that's a really good deal.
So overall, if you still are rocking a 3000G, let me know in the comment section down below. But if you do want to pick up the parts from today's video, links in the description down below, be affiliate links, they do help us out. And it's very cool to see that the 3000G can still play some games while also giving you that upgrade path to a lot of different CPUs that Ryzen has to offer.
So as always, we hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, check out our other two YouTube channels and also our twitch.tv/toastybros. And do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And we'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
If you want to pick up a PC like this, whether it's $100 or all the way up to $6 grand, we definitely got you.
PC Bros Tech is our PC selling business. You can buy a PC like this. You can buy a 3080 PC, 3090 PC even, a lot of different PCs over on our website and in person, PCBros.tech. See you guys later. Goodbye.